Hello, good morning. Welcome to another exciting time. We talk about the best of stories in the world of sports. It is Sports Central, and my name is Blyden Kim. Exciting times ahead. The guys are seated with me and ready for this one. We're diving funny and ready for the big talking point that has to do with the world of sport. Well, sadly, we couldn't bring you sports wrap up this morning, but we're back as if we never left and getting even further excited rather. One of the key conversations to look at would be the Under-20 World Cup, and we'll also talk about the 2026 World Cup qualifiers as Eastern, the Super Eagles of Nigeria, do not have a chance when it has to do with finishing as best losers because 4 teams are in that position. The likes of Egypt already qualifying for the World Cup, Tunisia and the likes qualifying for the World Cup. It would be a conversation today, but one key interesting fact would be the very fact that Nigeria has sent their bid to host Formula One. Well, we'll see what the circuit would be in Abuja and the interest that comes with it. Well, before we get to talk about tennis and the rest of them, I get to talk to the guys. David, good morning. So good to see you. Funny good morning. So good to see you today, Utwe.
Well, exciting time to return. Of course, returning during a time where we're talking about the international break. National team still looking forward to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. I think for me, it's a moment of, I do not know what I would say, a moment of grief in football world, particularly in the shores of a country, because if you look at many calculators and permutations, it looks almost over for Nigeria now. So what we're looking forward to, please, for pride and maybe for momentum, as we're looking forward to the AFCON later this year.
Well, many would think differently regarding that. Likes of Rwanda also in contention, having 2 teams at 11 points and 2 teams at 14 points. That's interesting. Fantina, good morning.
Well, I would say out too in UT's land, I think the future of Nigeria's football is not in safe hands at all. When our under 20 are doing quite poorly, yesterday they were dismantled by Argentina. That's the highest scoreline throughout the round of 16 games so far. 4-0. That's very embarrassing. How did he even get to the round of 16 in the first place? Ali Zubaru, I think he needs his head on the platter.
Well, Mfanitina, serious words there. Well, I apologize for Mfanitina in that regard.
His managerial head.
Okay, I can understand in that direction anyway, but there's still a strong team to use on TV anyway, but it's basically what it is. What it has to do with sporting activities. We also see big coaches get the hammer. Always it gets to happen, especially when the results are not forthcoming. Well, quickly, let's get a talking point then, shall we? And talk about interesting things. And we begin from the world of tennis as fast as possible. We see how we'll double bunk on this one and get to talk about football stories also. In the world of tennis, it begin with the Wuhan Open, the likes of Arina Sabalenka extending unbeaten run, and we're talking about a record in Wuhan now 19-04, her 3-time champion, and is that conversation for adding up the number. Well, let's begin here now. Arina Sabalenka, no matter how I want to talk about it, world number 1, a big superstar, but she seems to be owning it at Wuhan.
Well, I think it's quite a clear case of getting used to Wuhan. Talking about a former champion in Wuhan, as a matter of fact, and also looking at the very fact that she's also won the most, tall level titles this year, both women and men, and that shows you the dominance of Arina Sabalenka. Look at the point margin, sitting at the current world number 1 in WTA standings, miles apart from Iga Swiatek. So even at that, one would also look at the fact that she's miles apart in terms of point guard at the world number 1. She should be relaxing. But she's not relaxing, still, taking to court, doing what she has to do, being quite clinical, dominant.
She's won a Grand Slam this year.
Yeah, she's won a Grand Slam this year. She's won 1 Grand Slam this year. So I think it's quite good for, Arina Sabalenka at the moment, still trying to rack up that momentum ahead of the WTA finals, that to expect before the end of the year. She's also one of those players who earlier complained before the start of the Wuhan Open that the calendar for the WTA competition for the year should also be looked at, maybe review in terms of the amount of games being played in a single calendar year, the amount of tournaments also being participated. Iga Swiatek at some point also made mention of that. But in all of this, Sabalenka still stands out and being quite clinical, and I think it's quite a good win for her. We're still looking forward to see whether or not she'll be able to go for the Wuhan Open, but as it stands, a good start to life in Wuhan.
Well, a good start to life in Wuhan, but the conversation is she's not won a Grand Slam this year. Quite sad she has not lifted a Grand Slam trophy in 2025 until, or rather, she won it, yeah. I think in
she
New York,
won one, yeah.
Yeah, beating, absolutely,
yeah.
Beating Amanda Anisimova 6-3, 7-6, 7-3 in that direction. It would have been terrible if world number one has not won a Grand Slam.
Have been the
That's
first
by,
time.
yeah, absolutely. Despite winning all the trophies, you want to talk about it. Well, unfortunately, now quickly, let's talk about the games that took place in the Wuhan Open. Surely would be about Jessica Pegula winning in 3 and reaching a Wuhan quarters. I might have said that she seemed to be having tendency of having to win in 3, going 3 sets before winning it. Quite a one for her, but somewhat somehow she's added a number against Katrina Alexandrova 7-5, 3-6, 6-3 just over 2 hours.
Well, they say some like to drive a Lamborghini, while some would just drive a normal car. That's for Jessica Pegula. Now she likes to do it the hard way. She's out of 6 games, she's reached the third set in 5 of them. It shows you how difficult it has been for her, but she's always finding it, finding a way to get the victory at the end of it. For Jessica Pegula, I just feel she has to do better. She has to do better. We cannot keep talking about her always having to grind out results. It shows you are not at the level you would want to be. It shows that you are not at that level where you can confidently head into a tennis game and feel you get the win now. But for her, I think it's good news for her to reach the quarterfinals of this particular one now. She can look forward to maybe winning it. She's comfortably seated in the top 8, so might just head to the WTA finals. All of them are trying to get in top tier and also improve their ranking point, because just like UT talked about, he said Aryna Sabalenka has won the most tour level. I think the WTA category has been very lackluster at this particular term. It's been very, very poor. With Aryna's, a world number 1 has won just 1 Grand Slam, but we are seeing the competition being as if there's no competition at all. In the ATP category, we've had Jannik Sinner winning 2 Grand Slams, Carlos Alcaraz winning 2 Grand Slams, but we still see that competition. Yeah. But here, someone won just 1, Grand Slam, and she's already, running away with the year at world number 1. So it shows how uncompetitive, or maybe we'll just use the word very competitive, because we've seen outsiders, seemingly outsiders, try to win tour level, even the 1,000 Masters. We've had people outside the top 10 win tour level competitions. Maybe not as uncompetitive as I'm talking about, but at the end of it, I think the top tennis stars in the WTA category have not done enough this particular term.
Well, funny not saying the top tennis stars of the WTA category not really doing enough in that direction. Well, a player would think differently. Maybe at the Wuhan tournament, she would think she's done enough. Maybe in totality, looking at a year calendar in the world of tennis, WTA, maybe you would say she's not done enough. Talking about the Wuhan Open and Noskova carrying momentum from Beijing to beat Naomi Osaka in Wuhan. Well, quickly, let's talk about the men's game, the excitement in the men's game. And I hope the Shanghai Open, still the Asian Swing, a big tournament, a 1,000 Masters event in Shanghai. Well, Danny Medvedev had to say a shorter deja vu in Shanghai. Round of 4 in this one, winning against Tien. Well, fun, I'll stick with you, because when you talk about this one, Danny Medvedev, we've talked about a tennis player that's not been very consistent. Definitely really talk about Danny Medvedev, but somewhat somehow, I think most often than not, I say affliction shall not come a second time, but it was about to come a third time for Danny Medvedev against Tien, but a hard way to get a victory at the Shanghai Open in this one, despite having weather crumbs to score first win over Leonard Tien in Shanghai. A third meeting for the both of them, and first win for him against Tien.
Well, I think for Danny Medvedev, it shows that if he puts his mind to something, he's going to get it. Because this particular game, you could see it on his face, you could see it, he wanted it. He really wanted it. Even when Leonard Tien was making all those comebacks, even there was a particular set Leonard Tien won, but then the man was still in it. Normal Daniel Medvedev, he would give up at that point. You see him start getting frustrated and hitting the rackets up and down, but we didn't see that from him yet. He kept his calm, was cool, was collected, and that was the result.
Maybe Tien didn't do enough.
He did enough. He won a set. The other set was 7-6. The next set he won. So when you look at it, I think Leonard Tien did enough. Just that Daniel Medvedev also did enough for the very first time, because we've not many times you see Daniel Medvedev doing enough. He's always giving up before the game is called. But at the end of it, I would say the question is, how far can he go? This is round 4. We still have got quarterfinals, semifinals. Can Daniel Medvedev now? I think Novak Djokovic is the top seeded competitor left here. After that, we should be talking about the likes of Alex de Minaur, but still, Daniel Medvedev, I think, when you want to talk about what he's accomplished in his tennis career, it dwarfs those of Alex de Minaur and the likes. only Novak Djokovic can stop him in this particular competition. So let's see how far he can go.
Well, let's see how far he can go. For instance, I've spoken about the likes of Alex de Minaur and Felix Auger-Aliassime also being part of it, sending his bad statement in Turin race, sinking Musetti in this one. Well, Auger-Aliassime is also in contention now, ranked world number 10, and is battling to get to the year-end competition in that direction. Well, similarly, we talk about Alex de Minaur advancing to the Shanghai quarterfinals and moves closer to Turin. Similarly, in that conversation, Alex de Minaur is the one that's world number 10, and is that conversation moving even further. And well, let's talk about the one that interests me the most. It would be about basketball. Now, we're talking about the D-Tigers and the qualifiers towards the 2026 World Cup that will be taking place in Berlin, Germany. Well, I hear the D-Tigers have been grouped in the same group with Germany, France. France are hosting the qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers. After that splendid performance during the Afro basketball, getting to win the title, and it's put them alongside 4 other African nations in that position, and would have to contest. Host nation are contesting against France, Germany, Korea, Colombia, and the Philippines in the Lyon Villeben group. Is that conversation? Well, I'll talk to you about this one now. We've seen the side how the performance have been for them, but it gets even tougher going to the World Cup now because they're competing in that group against top opponent. We're talking about France, who will be host at the qualifiers, and we're talking about Germany, we're talking about Korea here, Colombia, and the Philippines. Philippines still a strong side when it has to do with basketball.
I think this will be quite a very huge and difficult test for the D-Tigers side, to talk about the side who, recently, conquered Africa.
The D-Tigers.
The D-Tigers.
Yeah.
Was what we're talking about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so
I thought you said D-Tigers.
No, I said the D-Tigers.
I don't mention Tigers here, please.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even talk about Tigers conquering Africa.
So they have no business going to the World Cup.
I think it's quite good, a very huge test. First of all, Germany. Yeah, I would say, basketball in recent times have really been talked about with the United States contingent. But other, nations in recent times have been doing well. Spain in particular also have their league. France have also, got their own domestic basketball league. So those in turn could also, culminate in something of, gathering some quality squad to face the D-Tigers in this one. But I think we also have quality. As a matter of fact,
well, not depending on the home base.
Yeah, not depending on the home base.
Just the foreign pros coming joining Nigeria.
Isn't there, Carlo, in the last, 2 tournaments on the continent, she's won the best, player. So I think she's also adding something quite good for, the D-Tigers side. I think it's just gonna be a case of, still having that same momentum we saw at the FIBA, the FIBA AfroBasket rather, to this particular qualifiers. I just wish the ladies get back that momentum, and I think they can actually do well against these top opponents.
Well, Mr. David thinking they'll do well against the top opponent. I want to ask him for what a stumbling block could be for them, because we're seeing the postulation, 24 nations will take part across our 4 host cities. In Wuhan, China, we're also having this tournament take place at in France, as I mentioned, San Juan in Puerto Rico, and Istanbul in Turkey, with 16 ultimately qualifying for the main event. Nigeria have already qualified for, well, through the basketball, Afro basketball. The qualifier got to this level with alongside 4 African countries, Mali, Senegal, South Sudan, in that regard. So scattered around, we've seen what qualifiers have always been. Let's talk from an African point of view. How many African teams can make it to the World Cup here?
Wow.
Looking at those qualifiers, we talk about Nigeria. You see the group, we have Mali also in that group, Senegal and South Sudan also participating.
Well, I think it has to, there's no complaint. You have to beat the best to be the best. That's just it. So
yeah, no. Question is, can they do it?
That's where the question comes. But I'll talk about
because
Nigeria
we know you
now.
have to beat the best.
I'll talk about Nigeria. And I think with Rino Wakama in recent times, we've not really had that issue of can the D-Tigers do it. We're always talking about how would they do it? Would they do it in an easy way, or would they take a difficult route? That's always been a question since Rina Wakama.
Well, it seems like this route is difficult.
Now,
France and Germany and the rest
about.
of them, Korea also a tough side with regards to the basketball.
This woman took us to the Olympics and gave, I think it was a quarterfinal finish at the Olympics for the very first time in Nigeria's history.
Yeah.
So if you could make it to the quarterfinal of the Olympics, FIBA World Cup should be, a breeze in the park for you, because it's, I think it's, second fiddle when we're talking about the Olympics. Olympics is the top basketball, competition in the world. So maybe we're just going to have to go through the likes of Germany, the likes of France. For me, those are the top opponents in that particular group. Philippines, come on, we should have a field day against those.
Well, for the team, I think it's going to be easy against the Philippines, but not always going to be, especially even in the men's game, a tough side. When we talk about the Philippines, what we're talking about the likes of Korea being part of it, Germany, France, and what the big expectations are for the D-Tigers of Nigeria in the qualifiers.
One fun fact: the Koreans are very short, so when it gets to basketball, they always how would I call it now?
Are they short in basketball
compared to the rest of the world?
I don't think so.
Compared to the Olympics. I think it was Korea or China. They played against the United States of America. The height difference was
against United States of America. That's the best team in the world. But when you talk about China, Korea, even in the men's game, the tall guys, tall guys there. Yeah, come on. Okay. Don't look at football. Don't look at football. I think basketball.
When that particular fun fact.
I understand that. I understand comparatively, but no matter how I want to talk about it, it's never going to be easy. The 2026 qualifying format, we'll see 24 teams divided into 4 tournaments of 6 teams each. Well, we'll see what happens there. And quickly, the last conversation was about football before we get to talk about football stories. And this one is still closer to my heart, is that Nigeria has given a bid to host a Formula One Grand Prix, a move that could change the narrative of sports in the country. And the chairman of the National Sports Commission, Malam Shehu Diko, made the announcement. He said they've done the bid, and some of the top people in Formula One have been invited to come to Nigeria and see things for themselves. We're talking about Formula One Chief Executive Officer Stefano Deme Nicali and legend Lewis Hamilton and the likes of Tilke engineers and architects all ready for this one. And Nigeria saying we can do it. Uche David, can they do it? Well, let me cast your mind back to something that's really happened recently. We're talking about
E1 Motorsports.
Yeah, the E1 Motorsports, and we're hearing E2 just around the corner too. Talking about speedboats being used. Well, I'm looking for the right team. All electric power boat, a sailboat series in this one. Yeah. Well, don't bring motor into it for the channel. Keep it at that. Let's use the terminology. All electric power boats series in this one. We saw it take place in Lagos State, the very first in Africa. So it can be done even further, even in Nigeria with Formula One.
Well, first of all, I like the idea about, bringing Formula One right here to the shores of a country, because it would definitely motivate those who are also willing to, venture in that sport. But realistically, I still do not think we're actually ready to host a Formula One, tournaments right here.
Why do you think that?
I don't think we're ready.
Why?
Now, I'm looking at the circuits, maybe call it Lagos, maybe call it Abuja.
It's going to be Abuja.
Okay, let's say Abuja.
Yeah, they've got good roads.
Yeah. Well, it's not about good roads now. I mean, we're looking at the fact that for a whole day, those roads will be blocked just for that sport to take center stage. Now, we're also looking at the very fact that modalities also being in place, for this particular, Formula One.
Well, the president says that already.
Yes.
Stop being a doubting Thomas. Things better can happen in Nigeria. Formula One.
In paper, it is ready in paper.
There are good roads.
Have you seen it?
There are good roads in Abuja.
It is not about just good roads.
I don't need to see.
Have you seen the modalities?
We still have time to, bring more things if that's needed.
Because I'm not the one to see.
You have to see it.
No, Lewis Hamilton will come and
say. We're waiting for the
Formula One Chief Executive Officer Stefano Nicali will come.
Okay, let's wait for the remarks first.
All right.
I would also say, I think for Malam Shehu Diko, I would term it aggressive development, because during his tenure as chairman of the national president, whatever they call it, of the National Sport Commission, I think we've had very, very good development in Nigeria sports, the sports scene. We are talking about hosting the Commonwealth Games in 2030. I think it's good. Let's just leave. Let's not be negative forward.
Is it about him or the president?
I think
or just coincidence
as well, because I heard the president actually reached out to the Commonwealth executive and was telling them, "Come on, this is the centenary edition of the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
Why not bring it to Africa?"
Absolutely.
The first one. So when the president is also sticking his neck out, it shows that there's something being done.
Right.
And I want to appreciate the president.
All right, Falitina. I know to be there with you. Don't worry.
I like that.
We have to move on. We have to move ahead.
Thankfully, we're just years ahead of those events, so we'll definitely see whether or not Nigeria will host it.
We'll see what gets to happen, but under his watch too, Nigeria seemed not to be ready to qualify for the World Cup. The under 20 also so terrible. While we're giving them all the credit, we'll go on a quick break. When we're back, we'll talk about the part that we get to discredit them not doing enough, especially when it has to do with football and men's game in general. The women's are making us proud, the men are not. We'll go on that break. When we're back, the conversation continues. And my name is Blighter. We're diving for this and I showed me for company. Going nowhere and we're ready for a football talking point. And football, here we go. Well, when it has to do with the world of football, it gets even further exciting. Not too exciting for many Nigerians anyway, because the conversation begins with Nigeria being thumped by Argentina, the Under-20 World Cup taking place in Chile. The round of 16, last time out in 2023, Nigeria got the better of Argentina 2-0. Argentina hosted a competition, and little did we know the Argentines were coming with that revenge. And they got that revenge, scoring 4 goals past Nigeria, 2 in the first half and 2 in the second half, making Nigerians run as if they didn't come for this competition. Well, Fanitina, you've been following the stack of this team, their performances. It's not surprising because we saw the performance at the group stages, and we're really anticipated if they get a win, beat Argentina, maybe that would be a miracle, but it didn't happen. Argentina crushed Nigeria.
Well, I think you've put it well. It would have been a miracle for Nigeria to beat Argentina. A side who won all 3 of their group stages encounter. They scored 8 goals in the process and conceded just 2. And you're talking about Nigeria, who scored, I think, 4 goals and conceded 3 rather. So when you look at the stark contrast with both teams, you understand
they qualified as the last best loser.
Exactly. So when you look at how it stands, I feel it was always going to come. But Nigeria, it cannot keep going on like this. We're performing so poorly at these edge grade events, and I'll still say it again. I feel we should give the opportunities to ex-internationals who want to start cutting their teeth in coaching to come and coach the edge grade system, because we need hungry coaches. I still remember when
any names.
Well, I think what's his name now, Otaka, is already coaching a female team in France. So.
He's doing stuff with female team. Maybe give him female team.
Come on, I just think.
Or Samson Sasha gets to return.
And Aliyu Zubaru, who was an MPF. No disrespect to the MPF or whatsoever, but look at the MPF side. Even when they go to CAF competitions, they are beaten. It shows that our coaches here are not good enough. So when you bring an MPF level manager to compete with managers who are coming in with. Most of these players are already playing for some top teams in Europe.
Absolutely.
So when you look at it,
so we expected them to do well. Daniel Daga, the attacker, and a few others being part of that team. Yeah, quite experienced.
I think Daniel Daga has even been one of the poorest players in this particular competition.
That's what I'm saying. You expected him to come on because we watched Mulder scoring goals, doing quite well, and then he come to this competition, become a disappointment. Same kind of player, so most likely a point out to the coach. Well, Toby David, I wouldn't want you to dwell on it. Don't worry. A side note already.
Definitely, I still have to talk about Nigeria.
Can we move ahead? Don't worry. We'll talk about another Nigeria.
Okay.
Plenty to talk about Nigeria today. Well, the Super Eagles, they fell to make a list of runners-up for playoffs. Probably to get to talk about this one. Talking about the World Cup qualifiers, we've seen lots of teams do quite well, the likes of Egypt. We're talking about the likes of Morocco, Tunisia all qualifying for the World Cup, but Nigeria is still struggling now. And the reason Nigeria can't qualify for the World Cup is because the points they have is 11 points. If they win the remaining 2 games, it marks to 17 points, and there are 4 teams already for the players. We're talking about Gabon with 19 points, Madagascar 19 points, Burkina Faso 18, and Cameroon in that regard with 18 points.
And they are who could get there.
So it gets even difficult. So the only way Nigeria can qualify would be for them to beat South Africa and Lesotho, rather not South Africa, to win their remaining games and hope that South Africa falter their lines. Well, also we've heard from the Super Eagles camp, that the NFF has dismissed report of coaching shake-up involving Austin Ogwavong and Latin Boso. There were reports making rounds that Eric Chell would be relieved of his duty and Austin Ogwavong taking charge, as well as Latin Boso. But the General Secretary of NFF, talking about Dr. Mohamed Sanusi, has come out to say, no, that's entirely false. Well, we're going somewhere anyway. And in addition to all of these, Egypt has joined Morocco and Tunisia to qualify for the World Cup. 9 African teams will qualify for the expanded 48-team final to be co-hosted by the United States of America, Mexico, and Canada. 2 goals from Mo Salah making the difference for Egypt, and they steal that spot with a dominant performance. A 3-0 away win over Djibouti. For Egypt, it would be the 4th appearance at a World Cup after missing out on Qatar 2022, but they have not crossed the group stage of the World Cup before. And they've previously qualified to 1934, 1990, and 2018 World Cup. Whatever you have all the time to say, or you have to say about Nigeria in this regard. They cannot qualify through best losers, and the slimmest of chance is for them to win their remaining matches. I know we'll have days to talk about it, but any chance for them?
No chance whatsoever, because even if they win the 2 matches, they have to rely on South Africa losing one of those matches.
I think South Africa can lose?
They won't. South Africa won't lose those 2 matches. Benin Republic won't lose their 2 matches. At least they have to lose one of those 2 matches.
Yeah.
And Nigeria have to win 2.
They can't lose one. It's football we're talking about.
I do not see the possibility at the moment. We shouldn't be relying on all of those opponents. You know, get favors for Nigeria.
Of that group.
Because
South Africa,
yeah. For how long will we, of course, be actually expecting other nations, you know, help Nigeria qualify for a major tournament?
That's Rwanda. Rwanda has 11 points. The coach came out and said they want to qualify for the World Cup. Those are just made talk.
They
have a chance.
It is
they win the remaining 2 games of qualifying.
Definitely not winning South Africa.
Nigeria home and away in a group where people were beating Nigeria.
They're definitely not beating South Africa. Maybe you could talk about getting a draw against Benin Republic.
Well, let's see what happens.
But I think it's quite shameful that Nigeria still at the moment, you're still talking about now qualifying for the World Cup for the 2nd successive time this will be happening. And many are asking questions, what's the problem? I mean, under this particular NFF, you know, regime, we've actually seen a whole lot of failures. From the under-17 side, for the 2nd consecutive time they won't be qualifying for the World Cup. That's so shameful. We're talking about the best side. I'm going somewhere.
Are we putting on the NFF because you mentioned
yes,
I'm
going somewhere. The under-17 side, the most successful side in the under-17 World Cup history, not qualifying for the World Cup. The under-22 couldn't qualify for the Olympics. So shameful as well. We talk about the home-based Eagles. They were thrashed at the Chan tournament recently. And now we're talking about the Super Eagles of Nigeria not being able to qualify for the World Cup.
Let me interrupt a bit. Just a little defense for the NFF in what angle? Because when you look at it,
I'm going somewhere.
The Chan Eagles have always been bad.
I just wish you give me the chance not to talk.
Not always.
Mostly been bad in recent times.
Yeah, you're talking about mostly.
It's not about this. It's not about the NFF.
I'm good. Even under the regime of Amaju Melvin Pinnick, where we kept saying he's not doing better. At least we saw age grade football being managed accurately.
The question I'm asking is it the role of the NFF? What did Amaju Pinnick do differently?
This is it.
Recycling of the same
scouting. It is not about the quality of the manager. Scouting. I made mention in our previous show why the under-17 succeeded. Before a major tournament, you get to see scouts from the NFF scattered across the 36 states of the Federation, scout best legs for the national team. They don't just go to Lagos and Abuja
Who does the job? Is it not the coaches?
Has it been happening?
Has the coach been given the
Is the coach going to do that? We have a scouting department in the NFF.
Even under Amaju Pinnick,
we have a scouting department in the NFF. Even under Amaju Pinnick,
we had bribery and corruption.
It happened.
Processes of getting these players.
There was still speculation.
What I'm saying
we saw it in the picture of play results.
What I'm saying is because when you look at Nigeria, it seems like the same process. It worked before, but it's not working now. So I'm trying to see because
it is not the same process under this particular administration.
Let me bring the point.
It is not the same.
Let's bring the argument.
Okay, let's look at the under-17.
Hold on.
Look at the under-17.
Hold on. Hold on.
How many South or maybe Southeast players are on the under-17 level? How many?
But are you
Those
gonna-
players are basically just assembled from Abuja, Lagos.
No, hold
and,
on.
And then
Hold on
we'll have a quality team.
Hold on.
They're not the best legs in the country.
Hold on. Let's make the point. Time is out then. What the point I'm looking at is before now, because you should look at these under 20s, under 20 side. It seemed like a recycle of previous under 20 with some players abroad. Are you saying those players do not deserve to be part of that under 20? Because I'm looking at the role of the NFF in it, or just a failure of the coach.
It is not the failure of the coach.
And because we had the best of the players.
When last do we have a good under 17 side? It transitioned from the under 17 to the under 20.
It started with a Matthew Pinnick.
From the under 17 to the under 20.
It started with a Matthew Pinnick, that's the point.
Started with a Melvin Pinnick.
Time is over, don't worry.
Maybe we'll have this conversation next time again. Because over time we'll keep saying the quality of the coach is not good enough.
We have to dig deep the role of the NFF, or we see the total decline of Nigerian football as it goes. And well, as we close, we hear that Hurricane has been ruled out of England friendly against Wolves. The coach of the side mentioned it, said it sustained some knock or injury in the last game with Bayern Munich. I wouldn't want to risk it. Barcelona Villarreal historic league game is set for Miami. Well, sadly, before there were arguments not wanting it to take place, and we hear it's going to happen. And Chelsea's Cole Palmer is expected to be out until November, suffering from a groin injury. Came back and had it again, celebrated, had it again. So always going to be a concern. Maybe they have to live in rest. Tomorrow we have to talk about this again for the channel.
Yeah, we'll have a discussion.
So let's include it.
Yeah.
Not just a Nigeria discussion, but Ruben Amorim.
Okay.
Well, Ratcliffe has said Amorim needs 3 years to prove himself. I will talk about it tomorrow. Don't worry. Cristiano Ronaldo becoming the first football billionaire, a football player that's become a billionaire. $1.4 billion. Cristiano Ronaldo. That's why they love him.
Greatest of all times.
Financially.
Greatest of all time.
Financially.
And all round.
All right, we'll keep it for tomorrow. The arguments will come tomorrow. Thank you very much for being a part of it. David Funny Channel.
A pleasure.
Pleasure as always.
All right, we bows. Thank you. My name is Vlad. Tomorrow would be another interesting conversation.